Hey, Steve, I just talked to one of your clients and I loved this conversation because of the story he told me. And I wanted to kind of kick it around with you a little bit too. His name is Aaron Kay. His company is called Kit Security.
Mhm.
And I don't think it's an exaggeration to say UBX Cloud saved their company. So just to set the stage, and I want you to kind of like tell me the story a little bit from your perspective. It happened in 2021. They were on the Nuvalot system when that just collapsed. And I know a lot of people found this themselves in this same situation, but he had like days to find a solution or he was going to lose everything. And he's based in Massachusetts. So the fact that he actually reached out to you, here in Royal Oak, that was something. But tell me what you remember about that day.
Oh man, those were the kind of career-defining moments that you tend not to forget.
Yeah.
Um, so it was, yeah, it was Aaron K from KIT and probably over 50 other partners of Nuvalot and clients. And what had happened was Nuvalot was a bare metal provider, hosting provider. So they had over 150,000 servers spread across two or three data centers in the U.S. And they've been operating for a long time. They were an Indian-owned organization doing business in the United States exclusively. And they up and announced to all their customers, you've got 2 weeks to evacuate your data and your systems. We're closing our business. And I think the word bankruptcy was used, and everyone was just kind of panicking. And we don't, our companies overlap. We don't necessarily like do what they did, but there's definitely overlap there. And I was very familiar with the company, its owner, some of the staff, and I knew that this was going to be really bad for these people if they couldn't get off the platform. So we reached out and we posted some stuff online regarding this because there was a lot of heat coming out from this. Like, what are we going to do? And Aaron K was one of them, and we were able to we were the prime in this situation. So we brought in other companies, other like even competitors and people that we knew, and said, okay, um, we had an intake process, and Aaron went through that. So I had a posting that gave a tool and some steps that generated some reports.
Mhm.
And then those reports were handed to our sales team, and sales and technical teams reviewed it. And then we mapped out a migration path. It's really basically what we do when we're migrating workloads from on premise to cloud or cloud to cloud, which is something that we're experts at. But it was an overdrive. I mean, the volume, the volatility of the environment. There were so many things that were stacked against us, and I was in a unique position because like I said, I was familiar with their platform and how they set up and operated things. And they had a centralized, I want you to imagine like this is like a drawbridge or like a just like a large bridge that's like wobbling, like in the air. Like the entire foundation of this company's storage platform was falling apart, and they closed their doors. So there were no staff in the office. They fired everyone. They were all operated out of India, and it was pandemonium. They had one or two people that were handling the migrations, and they said like after 2 weeks or whatever, these people are no longer going to be available for 150,000 servers and just two people. Yeah, it was nuts.
And as Aaron was explaining it to me, like he was just in a full-on panic.
Mm-hmm.
I think he had started the company like 5 years before that. It was growing. He was developing a foothold, and then this just threatened to absolutely take them out. And as he was describing it to me, what your team did over the course of a relatively tight timetable, the hours you had to put in, the manpower you had to deploy, like he was astonished that you were willing, let alone able to pull it off.
Yeah, it was. Oh, it was everything lined up, incredibly so. We were at the right place at the right time with the right experts and the right resources and the right capacity. So, um, yeah, for like Aaron and most of the companies, the ones that we decided that were a good fit for us and that were like geographically where it made sense, we brought them into our company. And then the other ones that were not, or they needed data centers in the West Coast, which at the time we didn't have any. We would send it over to the West Coast equivalent. And I made a joke with one of the guys. I said it's like Coney Island, like if you know Michigan, it's like if you're East Sider, you get the Macomb, you get the I think American Coney Island or national, and then if you're on the west side, you get American Coney Island, and that was like the dividing line. So I would say this one is an American Coney Island, so you get it, and we're national, so we get it. And I was doing all the reviewing, so I would hand over all the documentation and the migration path over to the other company, and then they would take over that customer and get them moved over. Um, we were essentially the general here and leading the troops and getting them all moved. And we used our subject matter expertise to grab those servers in that environment virtually and then migrate them into safekeeping into our environment without any data loss. That was incredible, especially considering the fact that the storage fabric and even the back end connectivity was 100% saturated. Like the storage platform was falling apart. This was actually one of the problems. Nuvalot had spent like a tremendous amount of money. I think it was like 20 million or something to acquire a storage vendor, and their platform was fundamentally like flawed. Like it had problems from the beginning, and there needed to be some kind of like metadata cleanup. Otherwise, the storage fabric would just collapse. And I think that we're putting stress on these things, and we would lose servers in the middle of backing them up and transferring them. And what we ended up doing on our side was through our India office, because we operate globally, our India team contacted their India team, and we ended up hiring all those people temporarily to assist the customers.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was a resourceful move.
Mhm.
And I don't know if it would have been possible to do it all without that, but I mean, props to you for recognizing that was necessary and that it needed to happen.
Yeah. I mean, we didn't have access to any of the backend storage. All we could see was the fabric kind of falling underneath our feet. And they did. So those guys, because they, even though they shut the company down, they still had access. So and they were still doing the cleanup. It was just the storage admins that were really the ones that we would reach out to, and we would say like these 15 LUNs or volumes need to be brought back online. So they would prioritize cleanup on those, and then once they would come online, then we would grab them, and then we would like jettison it out of the environment, and we kept doing that. The other guys that were there were just there to support the clients, so we kept the other people on so that way we they had like hand holding through this, like the same people they had been working with for years were there to assist them to the offboarding. And you know it's not just one company. Like even in Aaron's case, I mean, he's got a few customers underneath him, but most of the managed service providers that we support um, had, I would say, on average, maybe 10, 20 customers underneath them. So you're talking about hundreds of small businesses and some medium-sized businesses that just would have disappeared behind the scenes. And that's kind of the thing, is like no one even knew what we were doing and when we were doing it. Like the MSPs communicated that they were having an issue with their supplier, and that their supplier is put them in a bad situation, but that they have it under control. And they did, and because we were there.
You know, it seems to me that UBX Cloud took a certain amount of risk in deciding to take this on because you take on these situations, you take on all the problems too.
Mhm.
And it worked out, but I mean, I don't know, was there a part of you that thought, why do this? We've got a stable business. We got like why put so many man hours on the table and take on all these problems? Because you can't even know for sure that you're not going to lose money from it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there must have been some calculation in thinking this risk is worth taking or these people need it, and deciding to go ahead and go all in like this.
Yeah. We had those were like the way that I looked at it, and I'm kind of very simple when it comes to these things, is like uh someone needed help and we helped them and their ask was reasonable.
Mhm.
It's that simple, like in my book. Um
I
now
do know that about you. I just don't know many people in business who think like that.
yeah, and I mean like in most of my 18 years of captaining the ship, I would say that I'm usually proven correct. Like my faith in humanity is restored. We had 100% retention of those customers that we kept for years. I mean, like 4 or 5 years. And then it's I think we still have at least like maybe 80% now. And from all different, there were software vendors that were hosting their applications. There were small businesses that were running their desktop as a service environment. I mean, everything. So on our side, it was an easy decision, and it was from a costing standpoint, we did everything that we could to kind of align the costs with what they had in the previous environment. But some of that stuff was just, I mean, um, some of these clients were being run at a loss. And I remember calling some of our existing customers because we have our primary site and then we have our disaster recovery site. And I remember calling some of our customers and I said, like, hey, we need to, they're paying us for a backup, a secondary location for their stuff. I'm like, hey, we have a situation where we need to actually turn off your disaster recovery services temporarily so that we can actually offload these people who really need those resources into this environment. And it was only a few customers, and they all were like, no problem. And they're like, wow, like I kind of like, I'm like, we'll get you back online in about 2 weeks, like when this is done. And we even had one of our MSP partners locally. We needed to help transporting basically blade servers and storage arrays and stuff from one location of ours to another. And they let us, they loaded up their van. This is just one of our partners, right? They're like, you got the van, you got the crew. He's like, whatever you need, and they brought over. We affectionately called it the Jesus NAS because one of the last environment, like we just had enough space, and they brought that in, and it was like, oh, we can breathe. Like we have a way to offload like 100 terabytes of whatever, and then shift it over somewhere else. And they put us. We called it the Jesus NAS because the MSP partner put a sticker of the dude from that Jeff Bridges movie from the 90s. And
The dude. Okay, I
the
gotcha.
dude, yeah. And it looked like Jesus. And someone said, "Is that Jesus?" And they're like, "Yeah, that's the Jesus NAS, right? Because it saved everyone." So it was a crazy alignment with everything. But I mean, like we're used to doing these kinds of activities because we're so niche. And but that was exceptional. Like that really was everything. You know, um, we had one staff member who, I mean, we had 3 shifts and we had people working, extra shifts, triple shifts. And we had one staff member who was like, Ali Tanani, he's a core team member and he's like, he's got this deep voice and he's like, I never move, I never move Horizon View. I never seen Horizon View. Like I never touched it. And I'm like, I know your capabilities, man. I'm like, you're the heart surgeon. I go, it's exactly like Citrix. I go, it's the same stuff. I go, just different names and different places, but it's all the same components. And he went in, and within 2 hours, he knew more than the people who were running that system for 7 years. And I said, see, I knew that you could do this, right? And he moved all the Horizon environments over. I mean, it was amazing.
Yeah.
Um, so we had all of our disciplines, and we had all of our teams just working in tandem, and people were just like, Ali's like, more of this. This was great, right? And that actually played into some of our cyber remediation because what we did for Nuvalot at scale, we're doing at a more controlled pace. and at a lesser pace when we're doing our remediation services, because we're just doing it for one customer, restoration services from a ransomware attack. For them, we were doing hundreds. We're migrating hundreds of different unique environments.
So, folks, if you're watching this, this is proof that going above and beyond when people need help, A, is the right thing to do, which is the most important thing, and B, it really does pay off in business.
It did, yeah. I mean, we essentially, so we go through a 3-year refresh cycle for our Blade servers, our Cisco UCS servers, and we had just received capacity for the next 3 years, like that month. It was like at the data center, like half of it was racked. And that's why we had to move some of the blades to the other site, because we needed the capacity at the other sites. And I joke, it's like my dumb luck, like I'm like Mr. Magoo, like everything just kind of works out. But that was, like I said, exceptional. Everything lined up. It was wonderful.